If you want to save money on your trading card purchases, we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code ATNIGHT to get 5% off your order. Hey everybody, welcome to Nexus at Night, your weekly Vanguard podcast. I'm Atlas.
I'm Matt.
I'm Root Beer.
And what's up, man?
Alright, so I've had an idea for a video for a while, and then, my pipes burst, and I'm living with my parents right now, so I got really lazy and unmotivated to actually do it, so we're just going to do it on the podcast instead, because it's continuing to be a rather slow news week.
Well, I mean, that's what happens.
Oh, he couldn't masturbate because his arms are too short.
What?
I keep forgetting I put all these clips in there that we just never use. So,
we're a radio show now. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need like the horn or something. So yeah, talking about keywords this week, old keywords that just don't exist anymore.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about it, although there is like one other thing that we need to talk about first, because there was product news.
Right. Product news.
Yo, products?
Products and services that don't support this podcast because we're supported by our patrons, patreon.com/Nexus at Night. Got him. So we have a new, I keep wanting to say TCG.
We have a new thing. I'm sharing my screen.
Exclusive. Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm sharing my screen with the product.
Yeah. Okay, so this is only in English.
Yes. So it is going to be a mask supply set. So it only contains one card in it. So it comes with a large storage box, which is just going to be the packaging, as has been the case with like the previous things.
So like one of these.
I'm going to assume you're holding it up right now because I can't share the
for people listening,
screen.
This is the Messiah deck set.
Okay.
So like one of those probably, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but like bigger.
Yeah. Okay.
It's gonna come with a playmat. It's gonna come with like those little fighters coins. I do not have my dice bag with me right now, but they have these little
that I never use. Fuck those things.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're fine. Like for all intents and purposes, like 3 sets of going first, going second markers, which seems unnecessary. 6 card dividers, which no one will ever use, but you can use them to separate out like your ride deck or your G zone or whatever, but no one bothers because they're in different sleeves already, anyways. And 2 promo cards.
What's it called? Like in the boxes where you keep your commons, like based on nation or clan. But sorry, continue.
And then 2 promo cards, which is just the mask. We are still incapable of giving anybody playsets.
Wait, so you buy 2 of them, you have 4 masks, and then you still have to go collect everything else you need anyway.
Yeah.
How hard was it to pull the mask in set? What was it, 10?
So average was like 6 or 7 a box, or 6 or 7 a case. Sorry.
Okay, that's not.
Which is like not great. It's about typical triple R rates. The mask has gone down in price to about $18 now, but like it's still like not amazing.
And what's the? Did they say MSRP for this product?
Not that I can see.
Oh, I see.
But knowing Bushiroad, I expect it to be something completely unreasonable.
Surely not, right?
I mean, like, if I were to like price it myself, just based on what we're actually getting, I'd say maybe it's like 25, maybe 30 if you really wanted to stretch it. Because like you're essentially just paying for like the playmat and the storage box, and you're getting like the 2 copies of the mask included. They can't be bothered to give you 4.
Yeah.
But like, yeah. Also, very notably, for a supply set, it is missing 2 very important things that you typically need when you're playing a TCG.
And what's that, Root Beer?
Just like one of these, and, like this. Just saying. You know,
that box is
you
sleeve
check
for people listening to
sleeves?
this. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I am not opposed to like the idea of this product. There are a lot of just random miscellaneous crap that you need as a TCG player. So like you need deck boxes, you probably want to have sleeves so your cards don't get damaged. Playmats are nice to have, so I don't hate the idea of them making an accessory set like this, but like they're missing the two most important things, right? Like the stuff to actually protect your cards.
Yeah. Like
And that combined with the fact that they're not giving you a playset of the mask, it's like, why does this exist?
so this is okay, this is what I imagine someone buying it for. I'm buying, packs for that set, trying to get the mask. I get like one. And you're like, well, I need this. Tournament's about to start. Regionals are about to start. Whatever. Here's a place where I can go get exactly what I need. So you buy it out of frustration, almost. And then,
that
then you can't
seems
even
like
get it for.
a poor product.
Yeah.
It's a good idea on paper, and then you see the rest of the paper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like if they just said like Vanguard supply set, I'd be like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like themed product, like themed accessories for Vanguard, so you can like you keep the Vanguard name in people's heads, and players can get all the random miscellaneous accessories that they need. But the fact that they're just missing the most important things is like cool. Who is running the ship at Bushiroad EN? Like, these are such simple decisions.
Well, the answer is Bushiroad JP.
Yeah. And we don't get nice things. We are not the favorite children.
Yeah. There's that, and then like, okay, so you're not going to buy this set unless you need the masks. No one's going after the box or like the coins or whatever that I can think of. I've never met like that archetype of person.
Yeah.
So if they want, like, it's probably not going to move all that quickly. I think if they wanted to move this quicker, they would at least, like, I don't know, throw a few packs in there. Like, at least you're
something.
so at least you're getting something
like
in there.
Like either like okay, now like randomized versions of whatever mask is a terrible idea. But like a themed set, right? Like you could just have like each of the individual mask units on like the mat or whatever, and then it would come with like some copies of the mask card that's on the mat, so that you have like themed supply sets. But no, we're just doing like the mask by itself, which who cares?
I don't really understand who this product is for, but
it's for people who didn't pull the mask but need the mask, and that's it.
But like, why would you, like, if you're designing a product, right? And you're on the first thing you probably should be asking is, who is this product for? What presumably is that person looking for out of this product, right? Is that unreasonable to assume?
No. And
and if your answer is, well, it's for people who need the card and can't get it, and like then you're like, well, is this really the best avenue for this? Is this really the best idea for this product? Like, or the best way to get this card out? I guess
we complained about the mask not being abundant enough when the set was first revealed.
That's true.
Yeah.
And like that is technically them answering our grievances.
Yeah, but they're also just like reprinting it, right?
Yeah. Where
like
they are.
You could have just accomplished this by doing it as like a common or a rare reprint in like the next set in English.
I mean, they could even just make it a tournament promo. They made Sanctitude a tournament promo.
Yeah, that's perfect. That would have been like it's just more copies out there, So it's just easier to get a hold of.
Yeah. Also, I'm pretty sure the mask is being reprinted in set 12. I could be wrong.
If it is, great. That's awesome. So, like, I don't think this necessarily hurts anything, except for the one thing, which was it pushes Japanese releases even further down the road while we wait for this.
Yeah, like we just have a gap.
Yeah,
we have a gap month in November for this.
I would have called it harmless if it wasn't for this.
Just a reminder, the Night
My
Rose and
Empire
Hari
is
set was an absolute flop. It is currently on TCG Player for like a fraction of its original MSRP.
I mean, they really dropped the ball with that one.
Yeah, $150.
And now people cannot move them.
Yep.
Who could have foreseen this?
I mean, I think what bothers me the most with that particular set is they came so close to
Did they?
something good. I think for getting people into premium.
What sucks is they released just an absolutely awful product, right?
Yeah.
And now every future premium product was like, oh, well, this one didn't work out, so it's useless to try again. And you're like,
Yeah.
But the product they tried on was just so poor. That's what's truly frustrating about and why it's upsetting when we get products like this is because we know this is just going to be the excuse for never doing it again.
Yeah. Like, we want you to do a good job. Like, we complain about this kind of stuff all the time. We're a Vanguard podcast, but like, we want Bushiroad to release good stuff. It would be great for us to be like, this is awesome, but for like everything. But that's not how life works. So, yeah.
But like, everything they've released has been like mid at best, right? Like, I think like the deck sets and the current stand-up deck sets are like that are coming in October are like okay. $50 is still a bit high for like non-foiled cards.
Yeah. Now, if they put the ride line helpers in there, then I'll then we're talking. But they don't. So
I mean, most of them aren't even that expensive. They're
well,
also
except for the cater one. I gotta go find 3 more of those bastards.
Yeah, because the cater one's the only one seeing play, and it's probably not going to be played for that long.
Which is a shame because I kind of like the Dark States one. Get an extra thing from Soul. Anyway. But yeah, so swing and a miss on this one, and especially a miss because now it's more time that we got to wait for this stupid thing to pass.
Like, this product is so stupid. Like, if they included the deck box and sleeves, I could see it being I could see its existence being justified as like, okay, well, this is just something like people actually need, but nope, we couldn't get that far.
So yeah, Festivance begins with the airing of grievances, and we've done that.
I will say I'm quite impressed at how well Shadowverse is spreading. It's quite impressive. I'm hoping that people can enjoy it.
Yep, it was so popular at my locals. We need 2 days for it.
Yeah, it was. Like Shadowverse been popping off. And honestly, it was a game that I didn't. I thought, I was a bit afraid for. I didn't really know what Bushiroad's plan was with it, and I think the release has been good.
Yeah, like I think like being an existing property that was already like decently popular, and also like Bushiroad doing the demo caravan where they were going around to different shops showing off the game did a lot for marketing it. Also, apparently the production values for their like regional tournaments is just insane.
Really? We got that Psy Games money, huh?
Yeah, like Different Fight was tweeting it earlier, where we have like the stream for the matches, and the production quality is just like crazy.
Oh,
I haven't watched it yet, but like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Shadowverse is some of the cards in the game like can be considered iconic, which really helps the game out because people are like, I want this card I liked playing in the early Shadowverse sets. Like, I really like Otohime. I really like a lot of the Swordcraft cards.
Sword Art Online.
Swordcraft.
I know.
Yeah, and it's like, those cards would definitely be something I would be looking at, right?
Yeah.
And other people, I think a lot of people played Shadowverse early on, and at least when it existed, because there's kind of no reason not to, it being a free game. I don't know if you played set 1, set 2 Shadowverse at all, Root Beer. I already know Alice didn't.
Yeah, I always
he knows me so well.
I never did.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I'm a mid-range swordcraft enjoyer. You know how it is.
Yeah. I'm still like working towards completing Swordcraft IRL. I'm missing the 3rd copy of Totohime. I don't have any of the evolved versions either.
Remember, mid sword is cooler than aggro sword. Always remember this.
So yeah, I'm doing like Swordcraft and Abysscraft for Shadowverse. I'll like figure my shit out eventually.
Excellent.
So,
anyways, on to the main topic.
Now for the feats of strength. What's up with the keywords?
All right, so we already know we're getting the next like special series sets for Luard and Shiranui, and the cool thing about these is that they had keywords because we're getting Luard, which obviously is ritual, and then specifically Shiranui Oboro, which is dominate. So I figure we could go and look back at old keywords and just kind of reminisce about it.
Sure. Do you want to start with those keywords and then we can go from there?
So I do have a plan in mind, but
okay.
First let's go with the general concept of keywords. Give me a sec to share screen.
Okay. Found him. All right, keywords.
Yeah. So keywords were a thing about like middle G era. So according to the wiki, they came out during the first Bermuda set because of course it was Bermuda.
Yeah, they're either the first or the last thing to get whatever.
Yeah. So every clan has a keyword that's exclusive to their own clan that kind of does all sorts of different things. I don't think keywords in Vanguard really work the way they do in other games where I don't play Magic, so Matt, could you explain some like Magic keywords really quickly?
Yeah, so Magic keywords, there are some that are kind of like what's called evergreen. And these are keywords that just appear in every set. So these are like flying, trample, vigilance. So all of them are basically like how monsters can attack, or like they basically lift restrictions on certain summoning, on certain casting conditions on some monsters, or how those monsters interact with the board when they're in play. That is the general premise of keywords in Magic. And they're to shorten things that might be complicated. Like trample in Magic is a very complicated mechanic. But the idea is quite simple, right? If I attack with my 6 power creature and you block with your 3 toughness creature, then the excess damage goes to you. That is very easy to understand. Understand as a player, right? But when writing it down in a way that's kind of free of context, right? So it's very clear what's going on just from text is much more difficult. Like, yeah, you get it in the context of the situation, right? But to write that down where people do not need context is much harder.
I know I remember from Yu-Gi-Oh! Way back in the day, it was like if something had piercing battle damage, it didn't say piercing. It used to say when this monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict the excess power as damage. And then now they just say piercing battle damage. And it's kind of the same with Vanguard, where like when whichever keyword is introduced in the first few sets where you see it, it'll have like, usually with a keyword it's a symbol in Vanguard, right? You have counter blast, you have GB1, you have that kind of thing, and it will say in parentheses, this effect is active if you have one or more face-up cards on Vanguard or in face-up in G10. And then later you just have GB1. That's it.
Yeah.
At that point, it's established that GB1 has been around for a long time. You can you'll either almost inevitably see a card where it explains it to you, or you probably just don't need it explained anymore.
Yeah.
So Vanguard does have some of those types of keywords, things like Forerunner, which they've phased out, Generation Break, which still exists, G-Guards, Glitter, which is a thing, Limit Break, which they have phased out, and really could put back on certain cards that were introduced in V, Lord, which doesn't exist anymore, Resist, which still exists, but they stopped using the keyword, Restraint, which which they've like more or less stopped using, Sentinel, which is probably the main one still being used.
Yep.
And all the like skill icon abilities, so things like Intercept and Boost, Twin Drive, stuff like that. However, usually when we talk about keyword, we're thinking about the unique clan ones. So every clan in G got a keyword, except for Link Joker. They decided that lock was going to be their thing, where it was like some extra mechanic or some sort of like state or some other restriction that was kind of tied into the clan. And because G era with strides, you had all these different strides that are not necessarily just like your same guy. Like in G era right now, if you're playing a deck, you are playing like that one guy. If you're playing a Youth Berk deck, it's all Youth Berks. If you're playing Gondiva, it's always going to be Gondiva, etc., etc. So keywords were kind of a way for them to tie together like G era. And since we're getting them back now with Luard and Shiranui, I thought it would be fun if we could just like go through every clan and just talk about all of their keywords and kind of reminisce for a bit.
Yeah, like I vaguely remember we may have done an episode about this a few years back. Die Hard Nexus and Night fans, please let us know. Because we do this every week and I forget things. Anyway, but like there are genres to the keywords. You have a state keyword.
Yeah.
So an example would be Blaze for Kagura, where if you have more rear guards than your opponent, your Vanguard is blazing. It's in the Blaze state. There's the skill keyword, which is it does something. So Magia for Pale Moon is a good example. You soul charge, or you call something from soul, it goes back into end phase.
Yeah, or like Hollow. And then some of them are like restrictions, so like Brave and Oracle.
Double off.
Yeah. So my plan here is
the worst.
What?
I think restriction keywords were generally the worst.
Yeah. So my plan for this is to just kind of go through in clan order on the clan page because that's easier than trying to go in. I'm not about to try and piece together keywords in chronological order from when they released.
Or alphabetical.
Alphabetical is awkward because of exactly Nubatama.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So if we're going in order of clan, I believe I'll take Brave because I've played it multiple times before. So Brave was the keyword where if you have 3 or less cards in hand, that's like what allows you to activate the skill. This is terrible.
Where's there it is. Brave.
So you would have cards that like so you had something like Suleiman, whose Brave effect was kind of whatever. If it's in Brave, you get 3K. Okay, that's fine. And then the actual skill that you wanted, the calling something from deck, was mostly just tied to Altmile, which, that's fine. That doesn't really bother me too much. But for a lot of other stuff, you would just have things that, like, they needed you to be in Brave. Like, your Vanguard would be like, all right, on attack, if you're in Brave, which isn't entirely impossible, being that it's before drive checks. But you had stuff that was like, there was a PG that's like, if you're in Brave in end phase, do this. And it's like, why would you?
Yeah, how?
The bounce to your hand PG?
That one, it just has to be on Brave when it hits the board.
I see.
I was thinking of a Sonic Gall, which at the end of the turn, you have to be in Brave, where you then retire it, draw a card, and countercharge it.
I think you're making up a card. This card never existed.
I hated this thing so much. I wish it was just on play. If you're in Brave, red text, do that.
Yeah. Brave feels like it was born in a time where having 6 cards in your hand was like somewhat viable still.
Yeah.
Because around like GBT 6-ish is when Brave started taking off, so that was like still a point before Time Leap went really crazy, and it was not uncommon for like average decks to only have about 6 or so cards, which is like unplayable in the modern day, right? If you're ending with less than like 8 cards in your hand, you're probably just dead.
You're in trouble, yeah.
So yeah. Like, I feels like the concept of Brave was like, you go down to 3, and then you get your triple drive, so you go back to about 6-ish, which is still, like, viable at the time that Brave was conceived. And then that very quickly stopped being viable after about GBT 8.
Yeah.
So they had to start making cards that, like, artificially induce Brave, like this guy.
Either Brave Lancer Electos was a starter, which was like, start of your battle phase, put it in soul draw, you're just in Brave for the whole turn.
This guy.
That guy, yeah. So it kind of reminds me of like Dragonic Overlord the X, which like anytime you're counting cards in your hand, you have 0. I wish they had something like that. Even like if they're going to do it nowadays, a set order, that'd be kind of nice. This was just a very awkwardly induced thing. I think the best Brave cards were those where the Brave effect wasn't the important one. It was like incidental, and then you had cards that like searched cards with Brave, which usually had a cheaper cost, which is great. But yeah, just a whole, like, I kind of see what they were going for, especially in the anime where you had Shion's arc of like his family's company gets stolen and he's like, down on his luck
You
for
say
about
stolen.
whatever the thing. I'm not gonna spoil the whole show, but like he has this whole arc where he's like down on his luck and trying to get.
He bought into NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd watch that. Yeah, so
I thought there was a stride that let you like bind cards in your hand so that you could have like Brave and not actually lose your cards.
There was a grade 1 that was like rest and kill itself or something, and then you bind your hand face down.
Okay. I thought it was Brave Lancer that did that, but no, that one just makes you discard, which is infinitely worse.
Yes. But like the only, I think, Brave strike. Okay, aside from Suleiman in Alt Mile, which is pretty solid, the only Brave anything that's really lasted still is Immortal Holy Sword Fides, and that's because the Brave effect is not only checking for it before the drive check, it's also just free. There you go.
This guy.
Yep. So just on attack, if you're in Brave, call 3 anythings from deck. That's that's a good way to do Brave. So I'm done. Let's keep moving.
Yeah. Okay, next is OTT with Oracle. I hate this keyword. It is one of the worst. Oh, where the fuck is Oracle on here? There it is.
Weird keyword.
Oracle is like the worst one. So Oracle is a state, so it is active as long as you have 5 or more cards in hand. So this was conceived in the time when all OTT did was draw cards. So, you would think that like a keyword that requires you to be ahead the entire game to function would have very strong payoffs for it, right? Like you'd expect to gain a lot of power or stuff like that. Instead, half of the Oracle cards just draw you more cards.
Like when you're in Oracle, you get even more Oracle-ier.
So this one's like GB1 Oracle. When it attacks, you can pay the cost, look at top 5, search something with the Oracle ability, and put it in your hand. Now, admittedly, it also has an ability that lets you put it into Soul and draw a card if you have 4 or less, but the fact that you have to already be in Oracle to draw more cards, and this is like half of the Oracle cards.
Yeah, like that particular one, because it's not even a plus. Like, you lose the card to get another card in hand. If that's the case, just keep it in hand, if it's that important.
Yeah. Well, no, this one is like, if it's on the board, you can put it in your soul at the beginning of your main phase.
At the beginning of your main phase?
If you have 4 or less in hand, you can like put it in your soul to draw. To like put yourself in Oracle.
Guys, no. Like,
I love it.
Oh
yeah, and
like,
then there's this grade 1 that's like when it hits while boosting, and you have to already be in Oracle. You can like look at top 5 and search for something with the Oracle ability and put it in your hand. And then if you add it to hand, you can you have to put it in Soul. Like,
now, did Oracle or just OTT in general have something that could take advantage of all this Soul that you're gaining to maintain Oracle? No. Yeah.
You saw it.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
A great keyword.
Yeah. Because, like, oh no, this was the one that, like, put you into Oracle. They had to print, like, multiple cards like this. So, where it's like Counterblast 2, if you have 4 or less, you can draw until you have 5. Like, Oracle was in such a dire state because that was, like, all you could ever do with any of your Oracle cards until they finally printed Ichikishima, where the Oracle, where being an Oracle actually did something good. And then you didn't play it in the actual Oracle deck. The best thing you could do with OTT at that time was Battle Sister, which also had a bunch of Oracle cards randomly. But the Oracle effects for Battle Sister were generally better.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them were just like passive power gain, so I think Crepe gets like 2k or something. Yeah, if you have 5 or more, just gets 2k, and then the on-hit to draw a card is not tied to Oracle.
See, that's how you do it. If it's going to be a limitation, you have to have the like keyword thing be not integral to the skill working.
Yeah. And then there was like one stand trigger that could turn things into Silent Tom, but you could also just play Silent Tom. So yeah, Oracle is like one of the worst keywords. I absolutely hate it, and I am glad I don't have to think about Susano anymore. We will just ignore History Collection. It's not real.
Oh yeah, I saw somebody with a tier list, and I saw Susano, and they're like, "This is going to take over." I'm like, "Okay, I'm immediately disregarding this list."
Yeah.
No sir, no ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to look at my top cards and then put them all at the bottom.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Angel Feather.
Yeah, so next up is Angel Feather, where they have Rescue as soon as I find it.
Okay, Rescue was the first of our skill keywords.
Yeah, as far as the order we're doing this. So the way Rescue works is just that a rescue ability has some sort of rescue number, so like Rescue 1, where you choose however many cards in your damage zone equal to the number, heal it, and then damage your Vanguard. So you perform a damage check like normal.
Yes. So this is what made Angel Feather Gize so crazy, was that these extra damage checks effectively made you get to, your triggers faster because you're going through your deck quicker.
I mean, Angel Feather is still coping on Gize now.
It is. I think it's. I think after History Collection, it's got some fun stuff it can do, but we'll see.
Yeah. So Rescue went through a really weird phase where initially the Rescue card was like Black Seraph, where it gets the Rescue effect during the battle phase.
Yeah.
So, it has the skill where like when something's put in the damage zone, you give things 2k, and then at the end of the battle attack, you can rescue 2. So the thing is, like, at this time, I think this is before the Refros ban, you had a ton of really powerful stand triggers in Angel Feather. So you have the Rescue one, Surgery Angel, where it's like after it boosts, you can rescue and shuffle it back into the deck. You had Refros, obviously, from the infamous Refros loop. And you had the No-Seal stand trigger that when you guard with it, lets you damage swap. So you could stack that with Gavriel to get a bunch of power on your opponent's turn.
Correction. The grade 1 was the one that let you damage swap on guard. The stand trigger was just shove it in soul swap during main phase.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry. My bad.
Okay.
But yeah, you did play like both No-Seal. You did play the
you played every No-Seal card you can get your Garbage Paws on.
So yeah, you're right. The grade
There
1 was the damage swapping, and then the stand trigger was just like put into soul, and then you can like put a card from hand to the damage zone, take a card from your damage zone, put it in your hand, so you could damage swap, which you could stack with things like Broken Heart or Gavriel to like gain a bunch of power, but also, in general, it was just like a really good card. So you played like 8. I saw at least one topping list play 12, but most of them just played like 7 or 8, where you were just playing like 3, 4 No-CLs, 4 Refros, and not very many people actually played Surgery Angel, even though I think it's a cool card. So that was what you were doing initially, was you wanted the damage phase or the battle phase rescue checks, because then you have all of these stand triggers in your deck, and you're stacking all this power. So if you just rescue check a bunch of stand triggers, then you can restand your very big units.
Yeah.
But then starting set 9, they like switched it up, and they decided that all of your strides were going to be like main phase rescue checks instead. Yep. So you had to like switch over to playing criticals, which was like kind of awkward. And I feel like Angel Feather never quite hit that same peak that it did during the No-CL days when you could Refros loop people.
Yeah, I agree. I feel kind of bad for them just because it's an inherently defensive mechanic overall. So having this sort of passive, like, all right, I have my dudes, they all have crits coming at you, 3 attacks. Like it's not as.
It wasn't 3 attacks. That was the thing. It was like 5.
Yeah, that's if you had a Harut on board too.
No, you could.
It just it was almost
Gabrielle Eden. I am looking at a card that lets you call during the battle phase.
Yeah,
right, where it like calls them and then you.
Yeah, if you hit, it's like you're probably hitting 1 stand trigger, and then you have that, and then it's like always 5 attacks.
Yeah, if you were doing like battle phase rescues, like later on they just printed cards like Gabriel Eden that like just calls cards out of the damage zone. So so they just kind of stuck with like main phase rescue, stacking critical triggers, and then like you get your multi attacks just from card effects instead.
Yeah, and then like in V, they just kind of kept rescue as a thing, but just didn't have the keyword anymore.
Yeah, that is another genre of keywords, is just putting a name to like the thing that your clan was already doing.
Yeah,
Like-
there's a few of those.
Yeah, we'll get to that eventually, but there are a couple of those. So yeah. I was gonna do like ratings for all of these keywords. I can't think of a good joke rating for rescue though.
C+.
9 out of 11.
God damn it, Matt!
Hello.
that was good.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, Brave gets a 3 out of 10. I don't have any words for Oracle.
Oracle gets an F.
Yeah. Please divine me a better keyword out of 10. Let's see. Next up is Shadow Paladin, which is there is so much lore here. Okay, thank you. Which is Ritual. So Ritual is active when you have the ritual number based on the number of grade 1s in your drop zone. So if something is Ritual 3, for example, which most of them are, then you need like 3 grade 1s in your drop zone for it to be active.
3 or more.
Yeah, 3 or more to be active.
That
At
would
least
be
3.
so dumb if it was exactly.
That'd be funny.
Right.
Dark Arm Dragon rulings.
Not Dragfall. Yeah, Dragfall was variable amount. So, for example, the original Drag Card is Ritual 3. So you can like take 2 normal units from your drop zone, bottom deck them, and then you can stride without paying the cost.
Yeah. And I think that's what made it so good, was that
Mhm.
it's not only helping like keep your engine going by virtue of like paying the cost of stride, but then also you're not discarding that card every turn, which it adds up all over time. Like the fact that this has been like the one stride bearer that continued to be competitively viable long into like even premium is nothing short of amazing, I think.
Yeah, and this is also the one that's coming back because we're getting Luard again.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ritual was always one of the better keywords because the whole thing with Shadow Paladin, especially in G era, was like grade 1 toolboxing. So the original Claret Sword would just call out a bunch of grade 1s so that you could retire them. Luard does the same thing, but I believe he needs to retire something as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
there
so
has
you
to
have
be
to-
something on board every turn to kill.
So yeah, when you stride, you can like retire something, search your deck for 2 grade 1s.
He would always have something. It was so hard to kill all the regards from this freaking deck.
Yeah. So that is the playstyle Shadow Paladin had in G, where it was grade 1 toolboxing. So Ritual is kind of a natural extension of this, where since you're constantly like searching stuff out and retiring them, you're just going to have Ritual active. It's also what makes this guy, Plot Maker, one of the better G guards of the era, because it was essentially this card essentially just read have 25k shield all the time.
Are you playing the game? Good. 25k shield.
Yeah. And of course, we can't forget Belial Owl.
The
Where-
reason I stopped playing Ritual.
Yep. Ritual 3 at the end of the turn. If you have Vanguard with Luard, you just put it at the bottom of your deck. Boy, we love recycling critical triggers.
Yep. and
Oh,
then
you forgot
there's-
the. Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, this thing just gained. This thing was annoying.
Yeah.
When die, like it was a constant resource loop that you didn't even have to.
Did
do
you
it
did you forget the card part where it says draw a card at the end of it?
Yeah,
That's like the most messed up part about this card. Like if it just put itself back, you'd be like, yeah, whatever. But no, it's plussing them a lot.
No, it's when it's retired from rearguard circle by effect it draws a
you
card,
draw,
and then at
okay.
the end of the turn you put it back.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
it's nice that it doesn't do it immediately, but still, like, you don't have to put it back with Luard's ability. That would be a little broken if it could put back triggers. It just does that on its own.
Yeah.
So that's the wacky part.
And it was already really hard for Luard to deck out.
Yep.
And now at this point it's just like, well, now if they even get close, their deck's just all triggers all the time.
Yep.
And you're like, thanks. Thanks,
Yeah.
Bishop.
We're still in United Sanctuary. We should pick this up, I think.
Yeah.
Unless we want to do like a two-parter or something.
We'll see. But
Gold Paladin. Oh man, I should
Yep.
get the Ghost of Richard onto the show again. I killed him.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, Gold Paladin keyword is Unite, which is active when there are two or more, or when you have called two or more things. And this is called by anything, so like normal call. And it also includes calling the guard circle, so when you guard.
What's his name? They have a V version of Canarius, which is so good. It's like so the new effect is like on play, if you've called two or more this turn, because remember they got rid of Unite, so it's just if you've called two or more this turn, discard, check top, I think 5 or 3, something like that, call something. If it's on guard circle, when you do that, it goes to guard circle. If it's on rear guard, when you do that, it goes to rear guard. So it just does so much more to extend the field you have going on in Gold Paladin, and just helps you not die. And like, it's just such a good card. It was kind of a nothing burger in G, but like V Canarius, wow. I didn't like Richard showed it to me. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then I played against him. I'm like, why won't you die?
Yeah. Unite as a keyword was always kind of weird because it's like, okay, the thing Gold Paladin wants to do is like call a bunch of cards anyways, but it is also kind of weird that you have certain cards that like call things when they attack, but like they have Unite attached to it, so you have to like call a bunch of stuff first, and then you can call more things.
Yep. Or guard with them.
Yeah. That was always fun with the G Guard ones.
I felt almost not offended, but just kind of saddened, because I feel like this had so much more potential.
Actually, I'm looking through all of the Unite strides. Yeah,
That
not
was
a lot of them actually do that. It's only Glorious Reigning, actually, because like Gurgit Helios, the Unite ability is to give it a drive, and then the GB3 is just completely separate, where it has the Glory skill.
Yeah, like Unite was never a hard keyword to fulfill, especially
not in golds. They're doing that all the time.
And even aside from that, Golden Holy Sword Gurgit was like, oh, did you call a Unite thing? Call the top card of your deck. Bam, you're there. Have fun, you know?
You need to do half the work. That's all I'm asking of you.
Real solid keyword, I think.
I think Unite was one of those like things the clan was already doing, and they just kind of put a word on it. And now, or for Unite, anyways. Now we're moving on to Revelation for Genesis.
What a bizarre keyword this was.
And now Chris is going to come blasting through my wall to explain what it is.
So let's look. So Revelation was the one where you look at the top card and you may put it into soul.
Yeah, so Revelation activates when you call it on the specified circle. You look at your top card and you may put it in your soul. And if you put a card into your soul, you need to choose a standing rear guard and rest it. And if you didn't put anything, it just stays on top of your deck.
I forgot that it rests the rear guard for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something that was so awkward when it first started. And then, again, this is one of those things where I kind of wish we just had 1 or 2 or more sets of support, because I think they were starting to develop a play style for it where you had things like Gelia to kind of overcome that, right? Where it goes back into deck, it stands something, and gives it 3K. So you go, great, something I just rested from Revelation, pop back up. And then you had like the stride that like let you soul blast when you drove check a Revelation or something.
Let me see. Yeah, because there's only like 3 of them. So Genesis was a weird one because we started with Fenrir in G, and Fenrir did get a second form that wasn't like a Strider, and then we also had like Amaruda coming in later. So it was like a similar thing that happened with like Claret Sword and Luard, except they never actually stuck with either of them.
It's a shame though, because I liked Amaruda. I thought it was this is what I'm thinking of. Ishtar, that's what I'm thinking of.
So when you reveal grade 1 or greater, you can choose same member as face-up copies of itself. They get 3K, and if it has the Revelation ability, you can stand them.
Yeah, so like you're encouraged to run more things with Revelation so that you can have this like restanding board and everything
Mhm.
like that. And for people going, oh, well, that means, well, how will you know that you're going to drive check Revelation? That's kind of the point, is that you're like
Use it.
thinning your deck out by going, oh, this is a normal unit, put it into Soul, wrestle.
Let's see, what does this one do? You soul charge 3 for each Revelation, retire them, and then they just get a bunch of passive power. So yeah, Revelation was a keyword that like kind of went nowhere. They only had like one real set with like Amaruta in it, and then Genesis kind of didn't appear for the rest of G after that.
Yeah, well, because it was like tied to the lore in the anime's plot, where you had the Diff Rider,
and
then get
the character
defeated
that played
later.
Amaruta was only there for like the first half, and then she wasn't actually evil. So when all the evil people came out, she just kind of left.
Yeah, she's like, I'm here because humans are interesting. Like that's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
she's basically just there on vacation.
Yeah, that's not too inaccurate to what's going
Yeah.
on. All right, Kagero Blaze. I already explained this one.
Yeah,
you got
so-
more rear guards than your opponent. Vanguard's blazing.
It is specifically at the beginning of each of your attacks.
Okay.
Although once it becomes blazing, it will stay blazing.
Yeah, so even if they call more rear guards, it doesn't shut it off, which is good.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Blaze is a state, and so it is kind of tied into what Kagero is wanting to do anyways, where you're retiring stuff. So the original Blade Master didn't have it, but we do have Kohen, so like on stride you retire something, and then you can like recycle things with the Blaze ability to keep striding. And then, you know, I think the first big payoff was Titan, where it could just like gain a crit, and that was still kind of okay. I always thought Titan was kind of a meh card, to be honest, but the real one is, of course, Ziegenberg.
The boy.
So, you know, it has the Blaze ability. Ziegenberg himself does not need to be blazing, but it is tied to the similar thing where you can discard the same number of cards as your opponent's rear guard, so you are incentivized to retire as much as possible. And if you can get all of them and leave them on no units, then it's just free.
So, yeah, I think it was a good idea. And then, like, all the rear guards were just like, this is just a, Kagero-wide problem, where they were just like, oh, you're blazing, draw or something. I don't give a shit. Like, none of them really did much.
It was just lame. It was like, if your Vanguard is blazing, it gets 5k. Cool. Yeah, so Blaze was always one of those keywords, like, they didn't do very much with it, because Kagero is just Dragonic Overlord the Clan, which sucks because I like Blade Master. I think he looks cool. And Ziegenberg is one of my favorite cards.
True.
Alright. Next up is Nubatama, the reason why I have to go in clan order instead of alphabetical, because they have 2 keywords.
I hate it here.
So the first one is After Image, which was introduced in the G technical boosters because back in the day, Bushiroad would just print a set every month, but instead of numbering them consecutively every now and then, they'll just call it a side set, even though there's not actually like a gap in any of their releases for it to be a side set.
Yeah, because it'd be like Clan Booster this, Tech Booster that, yeah.
But they were just releasing a set every month anyway. So the way After Image works is when your opponent puts a card from the bind zone into their hand, you can return the unit possessing the ability to your hand as long as you have 6 or less cards in hand. So this was a relic of when Nubatama's thing was not necessarily discarding, because they don't like that, although Shiranui did do that, but a lot of cards would bind cards temporarily, and then your opponent would return it to the hand at the end of the turn so that you could trigger After Image. So you would like bind one of your opponent's card at the end of the turn, they get it back, and then all of your After Image cards go back so long as you have 6 or less cards. Again, this is kind of running off the assumption that 6 or 7 cards was a sufficient hand size, which was not really the case by the time Nubatama got any kind of relevant support. But that also came with them just changing keywords. So, around the time of GBT10, we got a trial deck that introduced Shiranui Oboro, which has the Dominate ability. And this is the important one because this is the other guy who's coming back with the strike
Swing me, Daddy.
collection.
Dominate.
Yeah. So the way dominate works is you target a unit, dominate it, you change it to stand, and then you just attack immediately. And then this sounds very complicated because the units don't change positions. Like, you don't take the card and move it onto your board. You just like stand up your opponent's guy and attack them. So it does get into really weird ruling issues, but I think the general rule of thumb is like the board state is not changing. So if a card specifies like a specific vanguard, you're going to look at it in the context of it belonging to you while it's dominated.
So the card temporarily becomes yours. It's just over there. So it's not like in Yu-Gi-Oh where you physically, snatch, steal, brain control, mind control, or whatever, where it becomes yours, comes to your side.
Yeah. The most annoying one was was it Mukuro that dominated the Vanguard?
I'll get to that in a second. But with Dominate, they were really good about it in the anime. Where first off, it had this fucking metal-ass guitar track that would play whenever someone was dominated. But their eyes would turn red, signifying that they were, Shiranui's bitch for an attack. So Mukuro, it was a GB2 where it's like you dominate the opponent's vanguard and then it attacks all of the opponent's rear guards, and you, the Nubatama player, do the drive checks of the attacking vanguard.
From your own deck, not theirs.
Yes. Yeah. So this also means they can't G-guard because they don't have a vanguard to G-guard. They're not.
Yeah, that was fun. I forgot about that little detail.
No G-guarding. You can still PG though.
Yeah, guarding still worked like normal. And then, eventually they were just like, screw it, dominate from your opponent's hand.
Yeah. This one was like the end of GRO where they're like, all right, we can just have everybody do everything. I thought this was a great stride. I didn't really, I wasn't especially gulled by it or anything.
Yeah. No, this card's good. It's just kind of funny where, like, for the longest time they were avoiding hand ripping, and then by the end of G era, they printed like 5 different strides that do that.
I know in this particular case, first off, the hand size was getting bigger and bigger, so it wasn't as much of a problem. A. B, you while the units were dominated, you kept them afterwards. So what typically people would try to do, if they could, was call something they were going to call next turn anyway.
Yeah. So, although this one also turns off auto ability, so you do have to keep that one in mind.
Yes. That's on purpose, though.
Yeah. All right. Next is Tachikaze with Engorge.
Ooh, I love Engorge. So Engorge is a ability on Vanguard or Rearguard and triggers on attack. So when it attacks, you can eat as many of your Rearguards as you would like. And if you did one or more, if you killed one or more, it would become Engorge, which is a state. Engorge is the state from the triggered ability Engorge. So when they're engorged, they get various effects, and some of those effects depend on the number of rear guards they have eaten. So those effects could be from Silent Tom skill up where you can't guard with grade 0s, all the way to restanding your vanguard. Like
perfect
our favorite one here, Gluttony Dogma, which if you ate 5 or more units, he would get plus 10,000, and at the end of battle he would restand and drive -1.
Yeah, so you had 5 drive checks, and then you combine that with Gaia's stride skill, which turned 2 things into automatically reviving themselves.
Yep. So you'd eat 5, and then Gaia would call 2 back, and then some of them would probably call back themselves as well. And yeah. So Gaia's one of the best stride skills ever in the game, in my opinion. Counterblast 1, choose 2 units. When they die, call them back. Very simple stride skill, and it's incredibly nice that Dogma does not cost a counterblast. He just kind of does his thing. You just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So it's like 36, and you're like, all right, and you're stacking triggers forever. And the fact that Engorge is on attack means you're retiring all your rear guards before he attacks the first time, which means that all the triggers can be stacked in your rear guards. So the timing is actually quite convenient. Very cool ability for Tachikaze. Very in scene with what Tachikaze already did. The only thing now is that there are random things that would desire the Engorge keyword, and it's just not around.
Yeah.
But otherwise, great keyword.
All right. Next is Murakumo with Shadow Stitch.
So Shadow Stitch is a keyword where it's at the end of the battle that the unit's attack did not hit. You do something. So the trigger is your opponent guarded your attack, basically.
Yeah.
And usually the benefits from Shadow Stitch are you gaining some advantage or possibly another attack. So dual weapon, a very staple Shadow Stitch card, you would retire the dual weapon, and the dual weapon would copy a grade 1 or 3 on your board. So you can kind of like pop dual weapon out, grab something, and then attack with that. So you can generate a lot of extra attacks through Shadow Stitch abilities. So, your opponent's like, well, I should have just taken the first one, I guess is the idea.
Yeah.
The real big Shadow Stitch card, at least the first one, Yasue Tenma.
Not here. Hang on, because I think it gains the. Does it gain Shadow Stitch on red text? So it's like not listed as having it.
So the big one is a Yasue Tenma, which so you GB2 choose a Yasue Tenma, flip it up, and at end of turn it gets Shadow Stitch. And usually Shadow Stitches care about that unit's battle. Or no, sorry, Shadow Stitches don't care about specific units' battle. They care about some battle, generally speaking. It could, but some of them do specify that unit. So it's something you have to read for each card. Tenma is just saying, at the end of battle that your unit attacked a Vanguard, whichever one. If the attack did not hit, you can counterblast 1. Search your deck for the same name as a card the unit that attacked and call it to rear. So
this also includes itself, by the way, because Strides copy the name of the heart card.
That's true. So it also counts as itself. So every single unit you attacked with, if they guarded it, would just call another one. This combined with a card that countercharges on play, generates a lot of extra attacks, assuming your opponent is unable to read your cards for some reason. So this keyword is not great, but it mostly is if your opponent has good problem-solving skills, they can just be like, I'll just take the damage. And you're like, damn, foiled again.
Yeah, Shadow Stitch is the most random keyword because Murakumo was one of those clans that had an overlapping playstyle with another clan in Neo Nectar, and Neo Nectar got the keyword that cared about you cloning cards, so they just kind of slapped a different keyword onto Murakumo.
That's correct. And I think this keyword's pretty bad. A lot of people were saying, I think this keyword's cool because it gives your opponent a no-win situation. And that's actually not true. Anytime you're giving your opponents options, they can always choose the least painful option, which is not good for you, generally how it works out. Giving your opponent no option and always getting kind of a consistent result is generally better. But when they can, the guy that countercharge, if they just took that attack, it really shut down your 10 turns for a pretty long time. And there's just, there's other stuff you could do to kind of increase your power to make stuff a little more awkward. But overall, Shadow Stitch was an ability that really shined when your opponent was at 5 damage. And if they were ever not at 5 damage, it really fell apart. You need a lot of luck on your side. Yeah. I give it a 2 out of 4.
All right. Next up is Narukami with Thunderstrike.
Oh, God.
So this is a keyword that is active as long as you reach a certain Thunderstrike number. So in a similar way to Ritual, where whatever number of cards is in your opponent's bind zone is your Thunderstrike number. Thunderstrike was a very awkward keyword because for a very long time they would print Narukami cards that only bound cards from the field. And there was a certain point in G Era's lifespan where the top decks did not have boards. So for the early part of G Era, up until about GBT 12, Narukami just was bad. You had decent payoffs for everything you were doing. They didn't put Voltage on here because it gains Thunderstrike through red text, but Dragonic Vanquisher Voltage was your payoff.
Yeah, where it would just make your front row super huge.
Yeah, so your front row would gate. So on hit, you could bind you can bind one of your opponents, or you retire an opponent's card and then bind 2 cards from drop zone. And then GB3, all of your units in front row get 3k for each card bound. So this was the big payoff for Narukami for a really long time, but it was like not very realistic that you would actually get very high Thunderstrike numbers just because of how bad early Narukami was. You know, we got VMAX later that could burn you for a damage at Thunderstrike 5, which was impossible because all of the best decks could just call things mid-battle phase. And also just getting to Thunderstrike 5 sometimes was an ordeal.
Yeah.
And then
this is why you had to eventually end up with Sunburst, where they were just like, fuck it. We're like having it be the nuclear option of like
like Narukami got good at GBT 12 when they just started printing cards that bind stuff from the drop zone. So, you know, when a is you can bind something, your opponent chooses a card from their drop zone and binds it, and then if you strode something with the Thunderstrike ability, your opponent retires and binds something. And then, you know, Thunderstrike 4 at the beginning of your right phase, you can counter charge or soul charge, and then your opponent binds a card from drop zone. So they had already fixed Narukami by GBT 12. Like, the big problem was always just consistency in being able to bind, and once they gave it that, it turns out that voltage is very good, and also they gave us V-Buster, which is just insane at the time, where it gained a bunch of power, critical, drive.
Yeah.
You know, I think, like, if you look at Narukami nowadays with all the stuff it has, it's, like, inconceivable that this mechanic was ever considered bad, but for a very long time, they just did not give Narukami the consistency that it needed.
Yeah, like, once you hit that critical mass of things that bind from whichever it is place that you needed to, drop zone, whatever, then it gets there. Like, it wasn't that the effects were bad; it's that the getting to the Thunderstrike was hard. So,
yeah. Although, like, early on, the effects were bad too. Like this fucking thing. Why does it only work on the Vanguard Circle?
Scroll up.
Martial arts.
Ah, yeah. Martial arts was a pain in the butt, but you had to run it because you need that bind early game.
Yeah, but only on Vanguard Circle because, you know, you don't get to have nice things.
What you don't do other
clans. All right, so we need to start going faster. There's so many more clans. Nova Grappler, Rush. So their keyword is just when something is stood, except by trigger. Oh no, including trigger effects.
It's just by any sort of thing you activate Rush and then get a thing.
Yeah, so Rush is just whenever something stands by a card ability. This is one of those keywords that's just putting a word to what the clan was already doing.
Yeah, and then Neil Peart comes in with the drum solo. Dimension Police.
Burst. Burst is very similar to something that Dimension Police was already doing for a really long time. The numbers just got a lot bigger. They gave some pretty powerful cards to the Burst ability, including Rinka, which gives it so that your opponent, you can kind of negate Sentinels when you have large Burst Vanguards. But the real downside now to Burst is that the new cards they print don't have the Burst ability, so all the Burst cards are kind of irrelevant for the most part.
Yeah.
But usually, it's like 60,000 is kind of like the peak. But yeah, Burst is a fine ability. I really hate how they develop the stride skills around Burst for the most part, because they're always just kind of lazy. You get 4K and you're like, all right, which got you to 30, I guess, but like, who cares?
Yeah. And then you didn't really get the stuff like V Commander Laurel to double that instantly. You had to do it other different ways. So you were probably just better off doing the Die Kaiser break right, guard break shenanigans, right?
That was true up until the end of G, or until the last
when they gave us this basically.
Yeah, Bravest Peak Excalibur, it became better to just do this. Because this card is really good.
This is still good. I played against my friend Scott, who he put together this D-Robo build that's 4 post-history collection, and it's pretty dope. And it uses Goyusha, believe it or not.
I mean, it's not like Dimension Police wasn't already good before this. Like, Die tops very consistently.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alongside the Greya, Die is one of my mortal enemies because I keep running into it.
Simply kill them.
Happens.
Yeah.
Link Joker, we already said.
Yeah, we said it doesn't have one because they just decided that all right, we're already doing the lock thing. That's already a keyword. They also had delete. So they were just like, screw it. We're not making any more mechanics. You already have like 3 of them.
Yeah. So
Spike Brothers. So this one was charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so charge is when it's placed by the ability this turn. And then at the end of the battle that attacked or boost, it goes back to your deck.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar to another keyword that we'll see later, except that it has to be placed by an ability.
Yeah, so that made that was the one thing that made charge really awkward is because you have to place it by card effect. Like sometimes you couldn't get your combos like started just because it was like weird trying to get everything in order, which is why we had to have, I think it's Rising Supernova that just makes things charging.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you had like your
Agrius, also.
Well, there's that, and then like your Glimmer clone wasn't really even like a plus. It was just like buying something and then call it back, just so you can artificially activate charge.
Yeah, there's a lot of just bind things where you call it to artificially activate charge.
Yeah,
but it was it's necessary to do that in some scenarios.
Yeah.
Like Agrius binds 2 per face up and then brings them back.
Yeah. They should have just let you do it no matter how you called it.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why they made it so.
That being said, like if you find a Spike Brother player, they will just perform Cold Fusion with the charge with all of their charge units.
Yes. It's really simple. I don't know what Joe's talking about.
Don't look at me.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So next is DI, which is darkness, which is just a state that becomes active as long as a card has been put into your soul.
Yep. And
that's
excluding like writing. So
this is like what the deck is already doing.
Yep. Yeah. This is just a keyword for thing deck was already doing. The standout cards were obviously Enigmatic Assassin, the card that is still limited because it's too good.
And I will never have my Blade Wing deck ever again until either I get another multi-attack engine or she comes off that list. But
yeah,
that's
and
never...
the other big one was this guy.
Where Tiger Jaeger, buddy, love this thing.
So this is one that like let you soul charge, and then you can like put it back into your hand, and then also it's a stride fodder.
If you have cards with darkness in your soul.
And then this was also a funny one where Sharhot wasn't really the thing you were doing for a while. It was actually Glen's End Vampire.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, for a while, like, Glen's End Vampire was, like, better than what you could be doing with Sharhot, so you went with this as your main grade 3 for a little bit if you were playing Darkness. Eventually, this card got good. Soul Charge 2.
You'd use it for a rear guard, mostly, because it would be, like, no zeros, which was very
yeah. I thought there was a third Sharhot, too.
There was, but
yeah, there it is.
Daybreak Sharhot was that last one. It didn't really do all that much.
Yeah, although Darkness was like good by the end of G, by the end of G, because you had Balam back when Glory Skills mattered.
Yeah, and then you also had Blader Mass, which was a way to A, prevent yourself from decking out, and B, was pretty solid restand.
Yeah.
And I think like pretty much any DI builds, you know, which are pretty much all NLK Barrel Magnus these days, but you still keep a set of these as your, well, okay, I'm almost out of cards. Let's put everything back. And
I still have 2 SPs and just sitting in my binder.
I should have gotten those from you for what's it called for Springfest when I played it. Pale Moon, I got you on this. Okay, so Magia was, like I said at the beginning of the episode, where it's you call a card from Soul, and then at the end phase it goes back in. So this was pretty nice. The problem was that you had a lot of you had no counter charge in Pale Moon, like at all. I even for a time ran this grade 2 that was like GB1 on hit counter charge 2. That's how desperate I was for counter charge. But on paper, it's really good. And I think now post history collection, you can get that the Harry deck set, pull out 4 of those G Harrys and shove them in there, and you're like 9/10 of the way there for making a competent deck for Post History Collection.
Yeah. But also don't actually buy that because it's not worth the money. It's probably just cheaper to buy the singles, honestly.
Probably, but I did that just because I split it with Edwin. So too late. All right.
I sure hope you paid less.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Nexus Gear Chronicle with Time Leap, everybody's favorite keyword. Kill me.
Oh, it's coming back now too.
Yeah. I mean, sort of. I'm just.
What do you mean, sort of? Yes, it like post history. This is what I'm most scared of all the decks coming back with like, a lot of keyword decks are starting to show back up again. Time Leap is the thing that scares me the most.
Yeah.
With
this
Uluru and all that stuff.
This one is weird because it's like half what the clan is doing. Because if you play like Steam mains right now, they all essentially Time Leap, but they don't actually use the keyword. And like even in D, what's his? Oh fuck, what was that? Fate Rider, Time Leaps without having the keyword. But yeah, Time Leap is you bind a card, and then for every card bound, you search for a card with 1 grade higher and call it. And then at the end of the turn, you put back the thing that you called and unbind the thing that you had time leapt.
Yeah, and then if you like time leap a thing that was already time leapt, the thing from before is like stuck in time or whatever. So
yeah. So yeah, Time Leap was always a very, very annoying keyword because of Uluru or Elm does not have the keyword, but these assholes.
Yeah, History Maker, TikTok Worker, and Melon. Why did I say Uluru?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why you're afraid of Uluru or Melum after History Collection. Steam Maidens already play this card.
It's because you can stack 2 force markers on 1 circle and just put the Time Leap on that over and over, and it like hits like a truck, especially if they're going first.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they already do that.
What, stacking 2 force markers on top?
Not the stacking force markers,
yeah.
just the like going off on you.
Oh,
like,
I know
turn
that.
2.
Yeah, but I'm saying that like this is just another way to do it, and they also have the Urwatar thing now.
Yeah.
That they can do again. So fear.
So yeah, all of these assholes. I did not enjoy GB8 or GBT8 format.
Yeah, me neither. 11 to 13. That's my golden era for G, I think. All right, what's next here? Getting into Magellanica, whatever it is. I don't like the look you're giving me. He's like, is he frozen? Is that the...
He could be.
If he's frozen, that's really funny. Because I'm usually the one who freezes. Anyway, I'm going to...
Let me back in.
He says, let me back in?
Yes.
Let me back in. Remove, add to stream. I did. Why are you...
Uh-oh.
Device is not connected. There he goes. All right.
Okay, I accidentally closed the window. I don't know what I refreshed it.
Okay, weird. Anyway, so getting into Magellanica, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Grand Blue.
Yeah, give me a sec. So yeah, Grand Blue had Hollow. I'm just gonna start. This is easier than just trying to scroll down. So Hollow is a keyword that is active when you place it any way. You can just choose to put it in the Hollow state, and it will stay in the Hollow state, and then they die at the end phase. There is never... I cannot think of a reason to not have it be in the Hollow state.
There were a couple things where like you wanted to leave something on board for like you'd kill it and then call it back with Night Rose's GP2. It was very niche though. It was like
No,
would almost never
you didn't
happen.
even need to do that. You could just let Grenache die by hollow. Grenache has to die by hollow to countercharge.
No, not Grenache. It was something else. I think it might have been Cannoneer or something like that. Like,
Skeleton. I mean, no, because Cannoneer, you would just build your. You would just use the G guards to build a Denial Griffin. I don't think you need to actually leave it on the board.
well, oh well. Anyway,
Yeah, like I cannot think of a reason for you to like not hollow something, even something like Phantom Blaster Diablo. That's what G guards are for.
yeah, that's what made the charge thing so galling to me. Was that hollow was just free and charge you had to do it through like a
Yep.
for an effect.
Yeah, because basically all of your hollow cards say to like do a thing if it's in the hollow state, and so there was like never a reason not to have it. While I do hate GBT8 format, I did really like Night Rose during that time. It was a really cool non-linear deck.
Yes, it
And-
did have a lot of lines of play.
Yeah. Well, because you just had like 4 different guys that could all call things. So you had Negro Lazy, you had Night Storm. Was it Columbard isn't on here because he's not a hollow unit. Neither is Negrobone, I think. Yeah, so Negrobone doesn't have the hollow ability, but it has to call something with the hollow ability. So yeah, that was always a really neat deck. I feel like the Night Rose as a whole just kind of dropped off afterwards. Like, Starlight Night Rose was never quite as good as the original one, just because of the ability to call back things.
Yeah,
But yeah, I did really like that deck when we had GBT8, and we had combos like on par with Time Leap at that time.
yeah.
Yeah. Next up is Bermuda. So their keyword is harmony, and I'm just gonna look it up instead of trying to scroll for it. I really hate Wikia.
Wikia is the worst, but it's kind of
Yeah. Okay, so the way harmony works, this is a more complicated one. It is a state. So when a different unit is placed in the same column as something with the harmony ability, both units become in harmony with each other.
Yeah.
And then, if one of them leaves the field, they stop being in harmony. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's weird. So a lot of your cards like need things to be in harmony to like have their effects, and let's see, the big payoff for it was always something like the Big Loris, where if all of your units in harmony, like you can choose 3 things, give a 5k, it gives itself a crit. I know like later on we got the like Shandi from the premium collection, where if you have a full board in harmony, it gets a crit, and then on attack you can call things up to the same number of cards in harmony. There was also the grade 3 Spica that could, like, if it's in harmony, bounce and call something back. This card was always neat, never saw competitive play because harmony was just never good enough. Harmony as a whole never went anywhere. Like, the first time Bermuda was relevant in G, it was Prism, and then like later on we just got Anjay, which does have the harmony ability, but I don't think really played any of the harmony cards other than itself because it was just that good.
Yeah, harmony was never like, okay, apply this to every Bermuda Triangle thing, but harmony was just something I never cared about, nor did it seem like it was very good overall. You kind of just did the Highlander, this or that.
Yeah, so like, yeah, the things that made Bermuda good, there was that one Legion deck that was really defensive, like eventually Anjay because you could plus 1,000,000, and like Prism, because Prism like kind of did the same thing but had a restanding Vanguard.
Yeah.
And then, for Aquaforce, we have Wave. So Wave is a weird one where like during the number of battle of a specific turn, so if a card is like wave 3rd time or more, it's active during the 3rd battle, 4th time, 4th battle, etc., etc.
Easy
So,
shorthand.
yeah, Aquaforce always had a thing where they wanted like a specific number of battles. If you go all the way back to like the original Maelstrom, for example, it had the on hit at the 4th battle or higher.
Yeah.
So wave as a keyword was basically just putting a name to what the clan was already doing. And this was also a strange one of the rare ones where they just slapped the keyword onto the entire clan.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, because that is one thing about a lot of these keywords is oftentimes they would separate the like archetypes from the like G archetype. So you had like Dudleys and Spike Brothers, for example, where they would just kind of do their own thing in archetype, and then you had Rising with Charge, which was separate. And so this was a rare one where like they just printed wave on everything because basically everything already used wave, and it was just an easy shorthand. I kind of wish they would just keep using wave because Aquaforce is one of the clans that never really changed mechanics between series until we got V Thavos.
Agree. Oh god, Mega Colony. Dark Device was such a waste, I think. Where like if nothing is standing in the same column as the thing with Dark Device, you get to blank. Yeah, and with Mega Colony, I don't know if it's a thing of like they're afraid of doing something too broken, see Redora Strike, I guess, or if it's just something where they don't really know how to use the tools they're given because they never quite
never quite what? You kind of cut off there. Oh, now Atlas is frozen.
They never quite knew how to use the tools.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they never quite knew how to use the tools that they were trying to cradle markers. Too much shit that they just didn't stick with something.
Yeah.
Well, that was in V, right? Like G was very consistent in that you were always just paralyzing stuff, and then the way Dark Device works is that nope, that was always what they were doing. Like they were very consistent in G.
Machining was calling stuff from Soul even in like Boomer Vanguard.
Yeah, but they also would still like they would also still stun things.
Whatever.
Also,
continue.
Yeah, also machining is an archetype. It's separate from what Dark Device was doing. Like G Mega Colony was very consistent in like stunning the opponent's cards. And even Gridora, which like blocks you from calling things to a column, that synergizes with Dark Device because it's just if there's no standing units. So if there's no units there, there's no standing units. So like Dark Device is just one of those like benefits from what the clan was already doing, and I think they were pretty consistent with it. Like Mega Colony was meta after Gridora came out.
Yeah. Oh, my turn. All right. Success. Okay. So success is once again a state where it's marked by success and then a number. It's usually 20,000. Occasionally it'd be 25,000, but the way that worked is if it or a rear guard on board had its power at or above that level. So like if you dope it with the plus 4K, it hits over 20, you are now successful. It doesn't have to be the thing with success that gets dope, it just has to see it increase. If you call it onto board, the card with success, and you have stuff already over the 20K mark, it's not successful. It has to see the number go up to become successful.
I see.
And most of the effects were kind of middle of the road. The only one that really had a lot of impact was Amazing Professor Big Belly, which was just another Crayon Tiger, more or less. And then like maybe Field Glass Otter. A lot of it was just kind of like, all right, dope some stuff. Gray Belly in the Big Belly deck was like on attack if it's successful, Soul Blast, dope 2 things, and then end phase draw and retire them. Like that was pretty solid. But it didn't really make a huge impact. It wasn't bad. It was just kind of like they didn't really like commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally Neo Nectar with Bloom, which activates when you call a guy with the same name.
Oh man, hope you're good at multiplication, guys.
Yeah. So I think Bloom for a while like didn't do anything because Neo Nectar they didn't give Neo Nectar very many tools, and then around like after GBT 13, whenever they supported Neo Nectar again, we got like Blue Asha, and it became really easy to like bloom your units and get them like 20,000 plus power. or gaining 20,000 plus power while you were also like multi-attacking. So like Bloom eventually became good when you could just like attack 5 times with your units at like 60k.
Yeah. And like, what's weird is that you never really saw Asha topple that much, even with these like columns that were hitting for astronomical numbers.
Yeah.
And even
By end of
multi-attacking
G
stuff.
era, everything was like doing that.
Yeah. So it was just kind of like, I think it was mostly hand related because you'd have these crazy boards, but not a lot of. Yeah. But those are all the main keywords.
Yep.
I hate it when people play Neonectar and we're bad at math.
So says the
Same.
math major.
You know how
Also,
long it took people to count? It
Yes,
was the worst.
I know.
And that was back when, like, for some reason, people didn't use dice ever.
I think there was actually a rule for a time where they were like, you only have the cards on the board, no dice.
Please do not remind me of that.
I remember that, and then eventually it didn't get repealed because Boucher had wanted to on their own volition. Everybody reached a critical mass of like, man, shut the fuck up! I'm using dice. So we like silently rebelled until it eventually got repealed, just kind of by critical mass. But yeah, I think overall in terms of keywords, they were a neat idea, and some claims just had more experimentation with them than others that I liked.
Yeah.
I wish they did more with them.
Yeah, I wish they did more with them. It's also part of the reason why History Collection is so disappointing, because I associate keywords very strongly with G era. Like, especially by the second half when they just printed Striders with the keywords, and sometimes you had like 2 or 3 of them.
Yes.
Like, it's very disappointing that they went with like the original ones when like a lot of clans, once they started getting their keywords, like moved away from what the original was doing.
Yeah.
Right.
The only exception being Shiranui Oboro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is also frustrating in its own way. But yeah, I just wanted to like talk about it because I want to see like if they do anything interesting with keywords again with like Luard and Shiranui when those stride sets come out. But also as like if they want to do a G era revival like they did with History Collection, I feel like this is a better direction than just kind of slapping like new effects on the old like on hit strides, because like who remembers or cares about any of those cards?
Not that I can remember.
Yeah, like if I'm thinking about like Royal Paladin, I'm not thinking about Gobblade.
No,
nobody remembers like Kieran
and
for OTT.
Another reason I really liked your idea for this episode was that for people who came in either in overdress,
Even just in V
and stuff like that, you like it's just you weren't here for this, and I think it's important to learn about these pieces of Vanguard's history, especially from people who were fucking there.
Yeah.
So,
like this is like literally when I started the game is around the time keywords started becoming prolific.
And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it's about the length of the average set review, but yeah, thanks everybody for listening. Patreon.com/Nexus Tonight if you want to help out the show. Thanks to Darren, Cole, Josh, Jeremy, GR, Ali, $10 patrons. At Nexus Tonight on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. Where can they find the rest of us?
You can find me on Twitter at Wiggums, 2Gs, 2Zs.
You can find me at Plasma Eclipse.
Find me at Atlas Novak, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky for some reason. You can check out my YouTube channel, The Epileptic Comic. It's all short form sketches. Some of them are about having epilepsy. Or you can check out my podcast, Generation Dan, which is about generational differences. The episode that came out this week was talking about red flags. So enjoy that. Thanks everybody for listening. Until next time, I was Atlas.
I'm still Matt.
I'm Root Beer.
And have a good night, everybody.